Joining me now to break down this development is the chairman of the Decoupled China Political Action Committee, Paul Boardman. So, Paul, you're a perfect guy to have on right now because, of course, the American people are going to be deciding who they want to take on China in just a couple of days. But before we get there, explain what your organization is doing.
Decoupled China PAC is a political action committee. We support U.S. House and U.S. Senate candidates who want to quit China 100% now. So we're not interested in, partial decoupling. We're interested in complete decoupling, and we support those candidates. So Decoupled China PAC is active doing that and supporting our Republican candidates who are very interested, very staunch anti-communist, in this case, anti-fascist China.
And I think it's an important thing because it seems like it's something that should cross political divisions. I mean, even before the coronavirus hit the shores of the U.S., the American people were ready to take on China. I mean, I think you could say that President Trump's election, for example, is a testament that at least a lot of Republicans were ready to do that. He's since put on tariffs and kind of taken a more hardline approach to maybe than other presidents did in the past. But from what you're seeing, is this something that the American people are absolutely buying into?
Well, I don't know if you've seen. I don't know if you saw President Trump's rally today, but he is upping the rhetoric, and it is a very, very strong issue for him. Everything seems to circle back to China, and you see that in his rallies. So yes, I think it's a very, very highly popular issue for the president to push and to continue to push and to gain votes on. I'm noticing as I talk to donors and supporters that it's galvanizing even more in the last even couple of days.
And as I mentioned before, of course, President Trump did put tariffs on China. We are still supposed to be negotiating these phase 1, 2, 3 agreements with them for the time being, but we have been put through a little bit of a loop because of the coronavirus, which, came from China. And so when we talk about decoupling from China, how can we do that? Is it a matter of our lawmakers doing it? Is it a matter of putting pressure on private companies to do it? What's the best way to go about that?
Well, China is prosecuting a total war against the United States of America and other parts of the world in so many different categories. Russia they deal with about 6 different categories of warfare. China, total war from everywhere, everything from pandemic warfare to cyber warfare, terrorists, everything you could possibly think of, they do simultaneously. So several months ago, President Trump put out an executive order to his agencies to start looking at ways to decouple, and he's going through that process. What we have currently is we still have in phase 1, we're doing trade. We're doing a lot of trade with China, and we are continuing to enable their bottom line. And it's really coming to the point, will this happen after the election or before the election? Will the business community step up? And I'm hearing some discussions that the business community is saying, look, we're done with this. We understand we want a country and we want to support the president, and we're all in. And I know the president wants that, but he's a little bit, in between here. The voters want China cut completely. The business guys want it open, but the business guys are coming along and he's pushing it hard.
And that's what makes it a little bit more difficult, I think, for at least prior presidents to do it, is that it does take a little bit of a temporary economic hardship. Am I correct to say that? For example, when you put tariffs on other countries, it does sometimes fall back on the taxpayer, but it's a temporary hardship in order for the greater good. Is that correct?
I think it's a great way to look at it. We should be treating China just the same way we treat Iran. And we get back to the presidential campaign. How would a Biden campaign, a presidency, treat China? We've seen that in the past. They would probably just give them cash and unload boatloads of money to them. They're just, in sync with them philosophically, and that's who the Biden campaign is. They're just supportive of China, and of course interwoven in corruption and so forth.
And I think you raise a really good point because you're right. For example, if Joe Biden was the guy to take on China, he had 8 years of the Obama administration in order to do that. But it really isn't just the Obama administration, for example. This is an issue that we've had for a long time coming, if I'm not mistaken. We could go all the way back to Nixon and say that, for example, the U.S. and our development with China is almost intermingled in a way. And you mentioned before that China does launch warfare against the U.S., and it's more direct than people think. It's pegging their currency. It's undermining our manufacturing. It's making sure that we are not globally competitive in the same way that they are. So How did we get to this point, and what can we do moving forward in order to get out of it?
A 40-year plan to open up China for business for us so that we could have fair and trade business with China. We've been working on that for 40 years. We put trillions of dollars into that effort. We're reluctant to walk away from that large market, but we need to, and it's happening. It's going to happen. We've educated over 1 million Chinese college students here in the last 10 years. Our hope is they'll go back to China and, be part of a free enterprise, country that acts accordingly and like a good actor on the world stage. But that's not the case. They're obviously aggressive. They're fascist. They are out to destroy America. That is proven. We know that's true. I thought, why not just all the different industries that have been pilfered from the U.S. over the years through dumping, that President Trump just Defense Production Act those, and he can bring them back pretty quickly. I think he's justified in doing that, and he's moving that way. He has to sell it, and he is.
Yeah, and I think it's to be clear too. I mean, the hardworking people of China are also at a detriment because of the CCP as well. I mean, it is a fascist government, as you were saying, authoritarian that doesn't always look out for the well-being of its people. But before I let you go too, if people want to learn more about your organization or perhaps contribute, where can they go?
Well, thank you. DeCoupleChina.org. Okay. And we're going to be supporting, even the last few minutes here, people like Scott Perry. I don't know if you've heard about his bill that he introduced October 1 to label China a transnational corruption state.
I mean, it's fascinating, and it's long over time that we do something about this too, because as we were saying, this is not a new problem necessarily. It's just a problem that nobody's necessarily wanted to address. So I think it's long overdue on that regard, and I commend you on your efforts for trying to push people in order to get it done. But Paul Boardman, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Alex. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.